Okay, so I'm going to do Friends 101. So these are the things I think, based on all of the vast experience on FOTL that has preceded me, many of which are in this room, who have mentored me in this endeavor. We have learned a lot over the last 30 years. And I want to make sure that we share as much of that as we can for you. So you have in your packet a Friends 101 handout, and that's where we're going to start. So we are working with about 30 local groups across the state, but because United for Libraries picked up some of our webinars during the pandemic, we are so excited that other states have started reaching out to us. So we have had conversations in California and South Carolina. We have a call next week with Michigan, with Georgia, New York. I mean, we've had people pick up that those webinars and really benefit from them. And what I hear, even in all of those conversations, is libraries are under scrutiny everywhere. Rita just came back from Wyoming, where they're experiencing similar challenges and things. So now is the time to dot our I's and cross our T's and deal with as many issues as we can before anything happens. Maybe if we're super prepared, it's like an emergency fund, then you won't ever need to use it. But the first thing that I talk about in Friends 101 is building that foundation. And that's really what that handout is. It's a checklist of things that your friends group should have to really build that solid foundation. And I'm not going to go over all of them, but there are a couple that seem to be kind of the most questioned or most requested when we get mentoring requests. One of them is the bank account. Establish 2 or 3 signers on the bank account. That's really important for your transparency, for your best practices, that 2 people sign your checks. And by state law, they cannot be library staff members. If you don't have a separate Friends bank account, that is a state law situation. It cannot run through your library. So be sure that you're doing that. We have quite a few interesting ones across the state. I drove many hours to mentor a group that they were paying someone to be their treasurer. But she hadn't written any checks in 10 months except to herself. And she's being paid $250 a month, which is so much for this small friends group. And she couldn't be contacted to pay any of the friends' bills. But man, she was writing 10 months of $250 checks, and the sheriff had to go get the checkbook. It's not that someone in your group would do something wrong. You want to create an organization with the policies and procedures and the foundation that long after all of us in this room are gone, you set that organization up for success. And so putting those things in place. We also, I love this one, we have a husband and a wife. The wife is the president and the husband is the treasurer, and they're the 2 signers on the bank account. And I'm like, okay, let's think positive. I'm not a glass half full kind of girl, but you got 2 signers. They're just not the right 2 at all. So that's a really important thing to do. And know that when you go, you're going to have approved minutes and probably your charter so that the bank knows who's supposed to be the signers on that account. Then one of the other ones that I think is really important is develop that plan of action with your director. What does the director expect from Friends? What is their role? What is their lane? You'll see me say that a lot. Stay in your lane. I said this so much that the library director in Brentwood, Susan Earle, gave me a coffee mug. I don't drink coffee. She gave me a coffee mug for Christmas one year. It said, "Stay in your lane." Because every time someone would say something, I'm like, "Not our lane." Stay in your lane and define that lane clearly. And then state your mission. it serves as your guidepost for, just like what Kelly says, you can't say yes to everything. Sometimes it doesn't fit with your mission. It doesn't fit with your goals. And the new president-elect in Brentwood had a fantastic idea. She's like, we need questions that we can ask ourselves to say, do we fund this? Is this really something that Friends needs to do? And being a former English teacher, I made them have alliteration. So, our questions are, does it promote, this is your P alliteration, promote benefit to the community? Is it patron-focused? And does it promote Friends? And so anytime the library director comes to us or a community organization comes to us, we say those 3 questions. And that helps really make sure that we're on track with our mission and what we want to do. Then please have bylaws. So many things can be prevented with clear, up-to-date bylaws. The list on Friends 101 is actually from the state Library and Archives list. The regional libraries puts out this list, and really for library boards. And I always say, if you can align with your library board, steal that language. Use that same language that the library board has approved. That is a great way to start. About half of the Friends we mentor do not have a budget. I don't know how you do that. That would make Janice apoplectic if we didn't have a budget. But one of the things I love that we started doing in Brentwood is we categorize them by what the Friends expend and what the library expends. So we now have kind of 2 separate buckets of money that this is what it takes to run Friends. This is the cost of bubble mailers and book sale signs and labels that we use on things. And then this is all the other bucket of money that we use to give to the library for programming, staff development. And it just makes it very clear and transparent for the community to understand, that we're not skimming 50% of the money to have a party for Friends. And then you should always have some capital project money. And a capital project can be big, like expanding the library, but it can also be Tipton County's doing just sponsor a book. We need books in our collection. We don't have enough money for books. So their capital project is to increase the collection. Putnam County just finished a redo of their children's room, which is absolutely gorgeous. It's like an Eric Carle inspired storytime room. A capital project is just an abnormal expenditure. It's not the regular. So think of those as projects of all sizes, small, medium, and large. And then have a reserve. If anything the pandemic taught us, have a reserve. I'm very conservative financially. I like to have a full year of expenses. I would say that most of the people on the board do not necessarily agree with that. They think that's too much. But the need for funding the libraries didn't end during the pandemic. It just changed. We still needed to buy resources. Libraries got very creative and they did make and take. So you could come drive through and pick up a basket of supplies and take them home and watch the video, and you were all zooming together creating the craft. Well, Friends still needed to buy the craft supplies. So the need for money didn't change. It just was different. So have that reserve ready. And then think about a policy for how your funds are distributed. At what point do you release funds to the library? At what dollar amount does it need full board approval? And I recommend a fairly low amount, $250 or $500, because you want what's a part of the board if the board isn't involved in the decisions of how that money is spent. And then that also continues that communication and that partnership among your director, your library board, and the Friends. Purchase D&O insurance and liability insurance. When I took over as president of the Friends of the Brentwood Library, we had not had any insurance of any kind for 40 years. And when we figured that out, because no one had thought about it. That book sale, I think I stroked out about 12 times. Because every person who stumbled over a book crate, I was like, oh God, is this the one? You know, it's Fred Sanford. This is the one. So, you know, please get directors and officers insurance and liability insurance, because nobody wants to sit on a board where they could lose their house if something happened and they were sued. And most of the time, your city and county liability insurance does not cover you as a friend. So that is absolutely something you need to investigate. We actually had, about a year ago, someone reach out to us. They were very upset because a registered sex offender had joined the Friends and wanted to volunteer. And, you know, we're like, you got to seek a criminal attorney, but yeah, that's a problem. And, you know, it really changed my thought process, because when you're volunteering at the book sale, certainly at the one that's going on right now, we have an amazing book sale co-chair that she's been there 20 years. And she is absolutely the most trustworthy human I know. Some mom handed her a baby and didn't come back for an hour. And, you know, Sandra's great. Sandra's bopping the baby around. She's super happy. If you have a baby, you want Sandra to take care of your baby. This is not a problem. You do not, however, want a registered sex offender to take care of your baby. So, you know, having that criminal insurance, liability insurance, bonding for people signing the checks, think about all those things. I feel like I'm Debbie Downer. I'm telling you all the bad things. And then make sure you're holding open and regular meetings. It's important to have those where the community can see what's going on. What are you hiding? There's nothing to hide. We want people to know all the great things you're doing as friends. If you can, meet in an open space in the library, or you're meeting in the boutique, right? So everybody can come to the boutique. Like, you're not hiding anything. And that goes a long way to easing people's fears, and they don't feel like they have to challenge you or answer a bunch of questions if they've got all of their information. Obviously, please, please, please invite the library director to all your meetings. It's really important. Yeah?
Yeah, when you say open regular meetings, open it to the public, does that include meetings of the board or just meetings of friends?
I think that you do it of the board. I mean, I think it's open for everybody. Because you never know, you know, particularly if you're meeting in the library, somebody might wander in and then become like your angel who decides to open up eBay and do all these things, you know. I'm not exactly sure how we roped Janice in, but so, you know, you never know what that's going to lead to. You are not subject to the Open Meeting Act because you are not appointed by a county board or a county commission, but what are we doing that we don't want the sunshine on? You know, let people know what you're doing. And then we also have this lovely thing called the Ethical Dozen. This has been a cornerstone of FOTL for many years. And it is all those things. It's playing nice in the sandbox. It's staying in your lane. Take this document along with what Bessie gave you with the roles and responsibilities for everyone, and this defines your lane. It's very hard to stay in your lane when you don't know what it is. So we wanted to make sure that you had a document that tells you that. And there are a couple of things on here that I think are really interesting. Communication, all of the mentoring we get, almost all of it, it could boil down to miscommunication, poor communication, lack of respect for each other. So communicate, and then communicate some more. I mean, you think you've said it, you think you're Charlie Brown's teacher, say it again. But if you've established that clear plan, if you're talking to your director every month, if you're attending those library board meetings, I can't tell you how much I think that's important. Also think it's really important, one of my pet peeves, I have many, is when somebody at the library on staff not maliciously, just unknowingly, says, oh, we don't do that, or the friends don't do that. And then I get a call from a city commissioner that says, hey, my friend called and staff said you don't do that, and I want you to do that. Well, you know, when the city commissioner says they want you to do that, you need to really evaluate. And I would spend hours fixing a miscommunication. Just tell the staff, authorize the staff to call you directly. It will save so much time. Give the friend's president, give the phone number, give your email address. I promise you it will save you time. Yes, you'll get some wackadoodles, but it'll be okay. The probably second biggest thing past miscommunication we have is conflict of interest issues. Those are what we mentor a lot, and that's in here. I think it's number 10 on your ethical dozen. Most conflicts of interest can be dealt with by strong policy in your bylaws and transparency. We have, and you may in your small community too, have people that maybe do programs at the library and get paid for them, who are also on the Friends Board. That's okay as long as you are fully transparent, the board knows about it, there's a vote, it's in the records. But we have some doozies across the state. We have a mother-in-law of the director who's the Friends president. So she just writes whatever check her daughter-in-law wants and doesn't even consult the board. The whole board resigned in unison. So that was a 911 call we got. I told you about the wife and husband who are president and treasurer. We had a mayor, a former mayor, who appointed his wife to library board, and she kind of appointed herself as Friends president. That went really well. So probably what you're doing is not as bad as any of that, and you can easily fix it with bylaws and transparency. And then make sure that you as friends are following the library procedure and policy. You don't ever be the one who somebody can point to and say, well, they didn't have to do that. And if a patron can't do it, friends probably shouldn't be doing it. With the exception of volunteering in staff areas, which a patron couldn't come back and volunteer in staff areas. But I had someone on our board who wanted to borrow all of the serving pieces that the library had for a personal party with her friends at her house. And, it put administration in a very difficult position. It put our library director in a difficult position. Like, those are county and city funded items. You can't take them to your home because an average patron couldn't come in and take those items and take them to their home. We want to be above reproach as much as possible. Make sure you're providing information about your meeting a week or so ahead. Friends, presidents, and boards and library directors should not be presenting things spur of the moment to the board. Give your board the chance to be informed. Are they going to read what you send them? Maybe not. But you at least give them the opportunity to read it and to decide if that's something they need to research, or if they want to call and talk about it with somebody, or if they want to go ask another board member, then that's something that you've given them time to do. And then finally on the ethical dozen, watch out for that overreach. It's stay in your lane again. Bessie talked about this. It's library board, library director, and then down at the foundation, it's why they're called foundations and friends. And we are incredibly important to the process, but we have to stay in our lane. Then I want to spend the rest of the time talking to you about how you can really amplify your message. This is the successful part of that. I still think you have some type of elevator speech. It doesn't have to be memorized, but who you are, what you do, and really why people should join. I think that's important for you to know and be able to talk about. Ask the director to acknowledge your contributions, and you can do this in a whole lot of ways. The fundraising monster that Friends is has to be fed constantly. It's not enough for occasionally, once a year, for them to say thank you to the friends. It needs to be all the time in social media. If you can hashtag it, all the better. I don't know what I did. Please hold. What did I do, husband?
It should be remote at the bottom.
Hit the rope at the bottom button. No? Okay, you work on that. This is my husband. He's tech support. He's a software developer. He doesn't do hardware. If he wants to come home tonight, he'll do hardware. I'm just saying, no worries. So yeah, I pulled my thing. So you've got to give credit all the time on social media on whatever it is. And if you can hashtag it, all the better. We started the hashtag Better with Friends. Please steal it if that works for you. That's totally great. I don't know what I did either. If I knew what I did, I wouldn't have done it. If you have online calendar listings, so your programs are registered online, ask the staff to put funded by the Friends on the things that are Friends funded. That's a very easy thing to do. And again, it lets people know in the community where that fundraiser came from, where that money came from. I love one of the things that one of our programmers does in Brentwood. She starts a lot of her programs with a screen because she plays music or she has some scene that's setting the mood for the program. But she always starts with a board picture of the Friends and says things like, this program is funded by the Friends. If you enjoy this program or any others, you can pick up some information here at the corner. Oh, he's going through everything. Perfect. Perfect. It's a review in case, that's right, in case there's a test at the end. Here's your review. The English teacher in me is going to test you at the end. We have great book club bags, if you'll get to them. And I totally stole this idea from Columbia, South Carolina. They have these beautiful canvas branded tote bags that they put their book club sets in. And so people could just grab and go, the book club sets. And it was such a great idea. And I was like, oh, we're totally doing that. You wouldn't believe the number of people who contacted me and said, I'm so excited we don't have those janky Rubbermaid tubs with the book club sets anymore. I'm disabled and I can't use I can't carry the crate and my cane. And so now I can pick up from my book club. We take turns doing it. And so those are down in that corner. Just a super easy idea to do. Yeah. Oh, yes, Wanda has one. So actually then all the board members receive them as thank yous for being on the board. So, it just elevates it. Super easy to do. We also label everything we give. Sarah, who's videoing us, is the labeler for me because she's the graphic designer at the library and she makes them beautiful. You will see those big hanging tags that show the covers of the books on the book club sets. She also labeled all of our Library of Things items that was funded by the Friends because guess what? A city official walked in and said, why are we spending city money on telescopes and ukuleles and binoculars and microscopes that you can check out at the library? And fortunately, he was standing next to my husband who said, city money didn't do that. That was Friends. So, and I was shocked that he wasn't a fan, but okay, maybe I wasn't. Anyway, my next call Monday morning was, Sarah, we got to put labels on those things, and so now there are big labels that say funded by the Friends. So not only does it ease those naysayers who may not understand why a Library of Things is important in this current life, but it also, again, promotes Friends. Then we do this really cool also designed by Sarah. We have little buttons that say we love our Brentwood friends. Ask us about joining. Wanda also is modeling hers today. Janice and Maxine do not have theirs on. But staff wears them. So it's a great opportunity for staff to say, hey, you're here all the time, here's some information. And then we ask your library director to make sure there's a place somewhere in your information center, at the circulation desk, or whatever, for friends information, where it's all collected together, book sale dates, membership brochures, flyers for upcoming events, whatever that is. Okay, I'm super extra. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat. My last project as Friends President, first project as past president, whatever that little blurred line means, was to build what I call the Nook in the library. So right when you come in, again, this is Sarah's fault. Sarah redid the information station for the library, and it looked so good that our little janky Friends free bookshelf, I mean, it looked awful. It had a cardboard back on the shelf. It was bad. And so I'm competitive. And I went, I see you, Sarah. I raise you one. And so this is an all built-in shelf. You notice the light, the lantern is illuminated. But everything Friends is now there. Our pictures of events. We've got some tchotchkes to make it feel like a living room. We have an iPad where you can sign up immediately. We have a little lockbox where you can put money or donations in, and then the whole bottom is our free books. So yeah, that was a capital project for us. But I cannot tell you, as Sarah's on the ladder putting all this stuff up, as we're filling it in, everybody who came through stopped us and said, "This looks so good." They really wanted to shop the free books then. They picked up a book sale flyer. You know, you just never know where it's gonna lead. So, and then make sure that staff is telling you how your money is being used and how those programs worked out. If you give money for something, it's okay to get a report about that. We served this many citizens. We had this many children sign up for summer reading. Close that circle so that then your board knows what is happening and your friends' members know how that money is really impacting the community. The hardest one, budget and goals sometimes is hard for staff. They need to know your budget and your goals. Because if you are advocates for the library, staff needs to be advocates for you. And giving them the opportunity to see how much money you're raising and where it's going to is just an awesome opportunity. I encourage you to share that with the staff when at all possible. The next one is probably the hardest thing to ask for. I learned from Jacqueline Wallace, who was an amazing Friends President in Memphis. She said, "Get your ask on," which, you know, I love a pun. I love an alliteration. I like to, you know, and I was always afraid to ask before I talked to her. You know, and she was like, "Kathy, what are they going to say? No? Okay. You're still where you were. It's okay to ask and get a no. But request as friends a seat at the table." Just like Kelly said, it's so important that you have that interaction with the library board, with community leaders, and I would highly encourage a Friends member as a non-voting member of the library board. The John P. Holt Brentwood Library put it in their bylaws. They codified it in their bylaws. So again, there's always a seat at the table. It just adds for that consistent message, that open communication, and if it's done well, reduce drama, because everybody knows the plan. But at the very least, you as Friends should be providing monthly written reports to the library board about your activities, your fundraising, your goals, your struggles, and absolutely your balance sheet. And that should be part of the record of the library board. And the regional libraries has that in one of their recommendations as well. Because then you can shame all of them into become Friends members. Because, I learned I'm going to ask, right? I'm going to ask. And I'm delighted to say that now for years, every single member of the library board is a lifetime member of Friends, including the director and the assistant director and the city commissioner who sits on the board. And I cannot tell you what it does for volunteers when they know that. And we also have city commissioners. 6 out of 7 city commissioners are long-term Friends members or lifetime members. And when a city commissioner comes to the book sale on Saturday and schleps books out to people's cars, what does that do for your organization? It legitimizes who you are and what you're doing. It makes those volunteers see seen. And they can go up to their city commissioner and say, I appreciate you supporting us. And he's like, I'm so happy you all are doing this. So you never know where that's going to end up and take you. Asked to participate in strategic planning. I hear this a lot across the state. They're like, well, you're the Friends. Okay, you all are the community. I don't know who they want to talk to besides Friends. You've got to talk to people who don't use the library and crazy people that don't use the library and, But you are the community and your voice is important. And when Lewis County does their Library Legislative Appreciation Day, it comes differently when the Friends invite elected officials to the library than if the library director or trustees invite them. Because, again, back to Charlie Brown's teacher, the library director is all the time talking about how great the library is because she works there, he works there. But the Friends are voters. The Friends are community members. And so you say, look, we're willing to help you. We'll invite them in. We'll showcase what's going on in the library. And coming from voters and community members, it just hits differently. They show up. Would you agree? It's just different. Show up at city commission meetings where library items are on the agenda, whether that's new furniture or an HVAC or a new ILS system. Again, you're telegraphing that idea of there are community members who support the library, and we're willing to put our tax dollars toward that. There is nothing better as a library director who's standing up asking for some big capital expenditure to have a whole bunch of people in the audience wearing their Friends t-shirts or wearing their Friends buttons or schmoozing the commissioners before the meeting to say, this is important, we value this. Because very often they're standing there by themselves and your elected officials may not be patrons of the library. So, also make sure that you invite the library board chair to your Friends meetings. I think that's really important. Please make sure that they are in the loop. If you're on the library board, then they should be coming to your Friends board and maybe providing a report. Obviously, do social media. Obviously, ask for the proclamations. Okay, you want to go forward one? So we are, Library Legislative Day. Let me say one thing about that. If you haven't been to Library Legislative Day, please think about doing that. We don't have that date yet because the Tennessee Library Association picks that day. It's usually between February and April. I know, that's a big window. But that is a time when legislators know that you're coming to talk about library things and have some stories. We've been doing this for a decade. It's one of my favorite things to do because they do not know the story of your library. They don't know that libraries are more than a book depository. So we told the story last year of Deaf Santa at the Brentwood Library. We've always had Morning with Santa. We have hundreds of kids come for Morning with Santa. But last year, one of our programmers decided to reach out to the deaf community and offered a deaf Santa. We had no idea the impact that would have. People came from other states because their deaf child had never experienced Santa in their own language. So it was like a giant tear fest for everybody. But then hearing kids came in and learned about the deaf culture and it was just awesome. And so as one of our legislators was preparing his presentation on Marxism for the Moms of Liberty, he could hardly look at us because he was typing. He turned around and he went, y'all do that? Yeah, we do lots of things for the community. We do movie nights where that may be the only time seniors get out of the house during the week is come to movie. You know, we do crafting clubs. We do all kinds of things, but you've got to tell that story to your legislators and to your city commissioners. When you go and get that proclamation, you've got to say to them, this is how much money we raised. This is where we spent it. This is how many citizens it served. And this is how many taxpayer dollars it saved. You know, because then they'll start drooling, right? And if you keep track of your volunteer hours, multiply that number by what an average library staff member gets paid, and show them that number, what you saved library in library funding and city funding. And they'll love that. And then you hit them. Become a member of the friend. Be a friend. Never be afraid to ask that question. So we can accomplish, obviously, much more together. Libraries are always better with friends. We at FOTL are here to help. You can always reach us through the library website. We have sample bylaws, sample policies. We have sample everything. So and if not, I can find it. So please make sure that you are asking for help because we do want to help you. All right. 15 minutes. Okay, yes.